Colin Powell, the very first black U.S. Secretary of State, whose leadership in several Republican administrations helped shape American foreign policy over the last 20 or the last years of the 20th century and the early years of the 21st, has died from COVID-19. He was 84. He had also had multiple myeloma, a cancer of plasma cells that suppresses the body immune response, as well as Parkinson's. According
Oh,
to
he was
yeah,
just
according to Peggy
man.
Centrino, his longtime chief and staff, even if fully vaccinated against COVID-19, those who are immunocompromised are still at risk. He was the black national security advisor, the first black national security advisor at the end of the Reagan administration, and the youngest and first African American chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff under President George H.W. Bush. Um, Obviously, his national popularity soared into the 90s, but was tarnished when, as George W. Bush's first Secretary of State, he pushed faulty intelligence before the United Nations to advocate for the Iraq War. So now, Courtney, we'll let you in. Hello, what's your take on Colin Powell's legacy?
I can understand that, man. He was a man of valor. I can understand that. I served in the military and I in Vietnam, and I went in November '67.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about 53 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I served in Tet Offensive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
That was a tough one. I think Colin Powell served in Vietnam too.
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna
that.
get into his activities in Vietnam before this segment is over. So go ahead. What are your thoughts on his legacy?
Westmoreland did too.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I served. You know what I'm saying? Even Patton's son.
That's right.
I see. My MOS was artillery, so I was out there. I had to become what I had to be.
Right.
Stay over there a year and 18 days from now. When I finished my tour, I went to Germany. So I got a chance to see a pretty good part of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Across the Atlantic and the Pacific.
Right.
So anyhow, I had to say this, man. So my legacy go way back. You're always back to 1864, the Civil War. My great grandfather was a regiment, man. I can go on and on with that, but I know this is about a man of valor, and I knew the Boswell, L, and I knew the judge too.
Mm-hmm.
So I want people to understand after a baby takes its first or her first breath, when they begin to cry, they begin to die. That's just the way it goes. I don't make the rules. I know how they go, but anyhow, Colin Powell, you can't say enough about it. You know what I'm saying? So, this man's gonna die with a lot of honors. A lot of people embrace him. For whatever the reason, and so that's a good thing. So, I try to do the best. I've been married 45 years, 5 kids. You know what I'm saying? And they out your house, but they ain't never out your life. That's how they go. So you might well get ready for that. But anyhow, you talking about some good people. You talking about Dana Evans, and you touched on that one, and you touched on it, like I said, Judge.
Sounds like you've been listening.
And I knew L Boswell. That was a sad tragedy. Him leaving from West Side, and he meet his dad. I met him at Pulaski back in the day. But many people they come and go, but they only did what we got to do. But I'm gonna sit back, man, and listen to as to what that you have on your itinerary. You know what I'm saying? And
thank you.
Keep my eyes open and my ears on. How's that?
It's all good, brother. Thank you for calling, and don't ever hesitate to call again and keep listening. We're here every Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. being the Rev for the last year or two now. Thank you for your call.
I do my best.
It's all good, brother. Rev, what were your thoughts when General or Captain?
Yeah, General. Let's see. I mean, he was, if not the first black chief of staff of the what is it called? The Joint Chiefs of Staff, first chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He was pretty close to the first. And then he moved on, like you said, from there to serve in several administrations. When I heard that he had passed away, that he had been vaccinated, well, it struck me because of the whole concept that we've been playing with this whole thing about vaccinations. You remember at one time, before now, the definition of a vaccination was any preparation used as a preventative inoculation to confer immunity against a specific disease, right? You remember that? Well, that's not the definition anymore.
Yeah, apparently not.
No,
Apparently not.
no. Now the definition is a vaccination according to the CDC now.
Yeah.
An act of introducing a vaccine into the body to produce protection to a specific disease, not immunity.
Right.
Because a vaccine no longer stimulates a person's immune system to produce an immunity. No, it is a preparation that is used to stimulate the body's immune response against diseases. So if that's the case, then you can't make anything out of the fact that a person has been vaccinated and died, since the CDC, the end all and be all of what is medical policy in the United States, no longer makes the claim that vaccines actually produce immunity.
Right.
But wait a minute, though. Normally, if you catch certain diseases that can be immunized, if you catch that disease, that natural immunity covers you as well, if not better than, any vaccine that we've ever produced.
Right.
If you actually catch chickenpox, you won't catch it again.
Right. Right.
But people who have been vaccinated against chickenpox have caught chickenpox. If you catch the mumps, you won't get the mumps on that side wherever that virus lodged in your throat before. But if you get the vaccine for the mumps, you can still catch the mumps.
Right.
And so it is with this one. If you get vaccinated against COVID-19, you can still catch it.
Yeah, apparently.
Apparently. And you can still die from it. Apparently. But we won't talk about that.
No.
We'll just continue to say that everybody who has reservations about getting the vaccine, everybody who says, but wait a minute, we've only been dealing with this thing for about a year or so.
Right.
We don't necessarily know what all the long-term effects are. And so we'd rather wait and be more aggressive on the treatment side and be more aggressive on the proactive health side.
Right.
People, I heard a lady earlier today talk about how she's become very proactive in what she eats and how she exercises to maintain her body's ability to fight off diseases in general. And so that included in that fighting off diseases in general includes fighting off this particular one. Meanwhile, everyone else is being told, get that shot, don't throw away your shot.
Right. And so, look, Colin Powell was a guy who, because he did get the shot, and because he became sort of an antagonist to Donald Trump. Because he after he left the Bush administration, he went full kind of corporate liberal. He supported Barack Obama, supported Hillary Clinton, supported Joe Biden. So because of that, now we have to sit here and pretend that he's not responsible for maybe millions of deaths collectively, or at least partially responsible for millions of deaths collectively. And so for me, I'm looking at another member of the Bush administration who's been rehabilitated by the corporate liberal media solely because Donald Trump is the only thing that matters. Donald Trump is the center of the universe. Him on one side, Barack Obama on the other. I think him coming out in favor of Barack Obama was a big part of it. But I think that, it's very cringeworthy, because I said the same thing when Donald Rumsfeld died. Donald Rumsfeld just died. We covered that on here. I believe we covered Donald Rumsfeld dying about a month ago, about 2 months ago, I want to say. I want to say Donald Rumsfeld died about 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing, he sort of became we let these war criminals, these people responsible for lots of deaths. You know, there's lots of Iraqis who are still to this day being born with birth defects, who are still, have lost a large swath of their families. I was just reading 1 in every 5 Iraqis has lost someone in their family who died because of the invasion of Iraq. More than half of all babies born in Fallujah between 2007 and 2010 were born with a birth defect.
Really?
Yeah, the average lifespan has fallen to 70 in Iraq. And that's not even, obviously I've kind of learned to stop being disappointed in the corporate media because I don't really expect them to do anything but support the military-industrial complex. That's the only time they were ever nice to Donald Trump. When he bombed Syria, you had Brian Williams and those guys out there like, oh, look at the beauty of our weapons and whatnot, not having any concern for the people, being massacred and being, pummeled by those weapons. But in terms of Colin Powell, it's one of the reasons why I've always sort of resented the influence of Barack Obama on the black community and particularly blacks. Okay, before Barack Obama, most black people I knew considered Colin Powell and Uncle Tom. Okay, like you can look at like 90s comedians, culture, TV shows. Whenever Colin Powell, it was always in the sort of he's a Republican, he's an Uncle Tom type thing. When he supported Barack Obama, and when Barack Obama got elected, and Barack Obama bombed 7 countries at once, right after getting the Nobel Peace Prize, mind you, Barack Obama destroys the African country that had the highest living standard in Libya and brought slavery, chattel slavery, back to Libya. Now the black community has been put in a position where in order to embrace Barack Obama, because his hair is like mine, and his wife, and those girls, now we have to pretend that war crimes don't matter. Hold on, caller. We have to pretend that killing, being responsible for thousands or millions of deaths don't matter because it didn't matter when Barack Obama was doing it. But just, I know the corporate media is not going to give you this. And like I said, I'll get to you after this caller. I definitely wanted to go over some of the things from Colin Powell's history that has not been talked about, because I've been here all week hearing, essentially being sort of valorized and glamorized. In 1968, we talked about Vietnam. He was put in charge of actually investigating the My Lai massacre, because that's where he was, and he covered it up. And so for those who don't know, the My Lai massacre was the mass murder of unarmed South Vietnamese citizens by U.S. troops. In 1968, between 347 and 504 unarmed people were killed by U.S. soldiers from Company C, 1st Battalion, 20th Infantry Regiment, and Company B, 4th Battalion. The victims included women, children, and infants. People had done nothing, completely innocent. Some of the women were gang raped, and their bodies were mutilated, as were children as young as 12 years old. 26 soldiers were charged with criminal offenses, but only Lieutenant William Calley Jr., a platoon leader in C Company, was convicted. He was found guilty of killing 22 villagers. He was originally given a life sentence, but only served 3.5 years under house arrest. Okay, so this was the first time we had somebody like Colin Powell who had a real chance to be a brave person and to stand up against war crimes, and he did not do it. He helped to cover it up when he was in charge of investigating it, and talked about it in his book. His book that came out in 1995, I forgot what his book was called, where he's talking about how hard it was for him to investigate such a horrific thing, but he didn't see much of anything that was worthy of being real crimes. Well, the South Vietnamese people may say something different. Also, the people of El Salvador, we forget about all the horrific things we've done on this side of the world. A lot of times in Central America, even today, we just kidnapped somebody from Venezuela not too long ago, a few days ago. But
really,
Yeah, yeah. We just kidnapped one of their like diplomats or something and brought him here. But in the 80s, helped to train the death squads, the infamous El
No.
Salvadorian death squads that killed between 75 and 80,000 people. Okay,
Wow.
they were right-wing paramilitary groups that
Yeah,
were
I
acting.
remember.
Yeah, I want to give the audience because
Uh-huh.
the audience, they're not going to get this from CNN. The
No.
audience are not going to hear about the right-wing paramilitary groups that were acting in opposition to the Marxist Leninist groups. Most notably the FMNL, the leftists and their allies, and the paramilitaries committed the vast majority of murders and massacres during the Civil War, the El Salvadorian Civil War, and were heavily aligned with the United States government. Panama in 1989, Colin Powell presided over the bomb-based devastation in the Central American nation of Panama, where an untold number of mainly impoverished African Black Panamanians were slaughtered by the U.S. military as it carried out Operation Just Cause against a guy who was considered an ally, who was really a sellout, in Manuel Noriega. Once he stopped being a coon for the U.S. government, they wanted to get rid of him. So this operation, which served as a test run for the Gulf War, was predicated on a sensational narrative, which only got better when the U.S. Army triumphantly announced that they had discovered a stash of cocaine in the house that he was known to visit. He was considered the drug trafficking dictator down there in Panama. Now, after the fact, the story after the story left news just like it did with Iraq and everything else, the cocaine that they found was subsequently revealed to be tamales wrapped in banana leaves.
No.
So, and ultimately in 1991, Powell saw Desert Storm, which was really just a wiping out, and Haiti. I did some deep digging on Colin Powell. I did not know that he was partially behind the coup where they threw Aristide out of power in 2004, because they had helped throw Aristide out in the 80s. But I didn't know that when he came back, that the GNB group 184 movement was under the direction of Colin Powell and gave money and diplomatic support to the local terrorists to push out Aristide. Again, a left-wing leader that the people, to this day, Aristide goes back to Haiti. The people of Haiti love Aristide. The United States has said, you cannot be in power. So you have 3 million deaths over between the two Iraq wars and the sanctions. You have 200,000 Afghanis dead. Like I said, 1 in every 5 people has someone in their family in Iraq who died as a result of that. And nearly half of all the babies born in Fallujah between 2007 and 2010 were born with a birth defect. I suggest everybody out there, I know we don't have forever to talk about this stuff. We only got 2 hours.
Right.
There's a really good article from The Intercept called Lie After Lie, what Colin Powell knew about the Iraq. What Colin Powell knew about Iraq 15 years ago and what he told the UN. And it goes on a point-by-point basis of what people who worked for Colin Powell said he knew and have admitted that he knew versus what he told the United Nations. So I definitely want to get into that. And he unleashed his son Michael Powell on the world from the FCC.
Oh.
Yeah. So
okay.
But we have another call. We have
a busy
call.
Man.
Yes, he was. We have a call. Hello, caller.
Okay, young man.
Yes.
I want to wake you up and give your input on Uncle Tom.
Yes.
And then I'm going to give you input on Sambo.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Now, Uncle Tom, this is very important now. So,
yes.
All right,
I want you to go back to your black history. If you're
go ahead.
Tell me to get off it. Just tell me to get off this. You're the black race because I don't want you to say this about Uncle Tom. When I tell you this, you will understand. Uncle Tom was the one that made sure the slaves come out the field, that he would sneak food to them and get them a lot of food to eat.
Right.
Now, Uncle Tom was one that he did everything. When the slaves picked the cotton, he knew that the slaves would not have enough cotton. He went out there at nighttime and put cotton in those slaves' sacks so that they would not get the living daylights beat out of them.
Right,
Uncle Tom one that helped the slaves escape. Now, that's just a short on your black history. Now, let's move on to Sambo. That was a low down dirty dog.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that sat around there and helped get black people killed. So you got it all confused,
All right.
about Uncle Tom. Uncle Tom was the one that helped everybody in the slave trade.
Right.
Okay.
That's the best. Oh, Reverend, you know about this?
Yeah. Well, you know what the funny thing is, people talk about Uncle Tom's Cabin, the book.
Wait,
But how many people have actually read the
book in Uncle Tom's Cabin? Low down dirty snitch.
Yeah.
Good Reverend, explain to that young man what I'm saying. I'm gonna get off here, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, good Reverend.
Sprinklers.
Basically, what he's talking about in the original book, Uncle Tom was actually a hero.
Man,
he was the good guy.
Good man. That's exactly good.
Sambo was the bad guy.
Really?
Good Reverend, you said the same thing I just said.
Yeah.
Please tell that young man that so he can get an understanding.
But most of us don't read. We don't get that book introduced.
I didn't even
to
know
us.
it came from a book.
Yeah.
Look.
Mary Beecher
Young
Stowe.
man, good Reverend.
Yeah.
I spoke about this before when you was on the Leaders show. But I'm telling you, please explain to him. Cause everybody give. See, what he don't understand, those slave owners made Uncle Tom look like he was low down and dirty. They didn't want you to really think that he was. That's all. They didn't want us. They were not on Uncle Tom, so we'll stay away from him. Oh, Uncle Tom was low down and dirty man.
Okay.
That's what that was all about. So, cause he know that man, he gonna help us.
Well, all right.
That's the best I can say. So, explain that, good man. Okay, bye.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, bro. It's always good to hear stuff like that because, you know, you heard the term Uncle Tom used your whole life. I didn't know it was supposedly he was a character in a book. I thought it was some random slave that just was named Uncle Tom.
He was a character in a book that was written from the perspective of the abolitionist movement. Harry Beecher Stowe's father was an abolitionist preacher.
Right.
Henry Beecher, I believe his name was.
Mm-hmm.
But she wrote that book to show the horrors of slavery and how this man, Tom, who was he tried to be as good a worker as one could under the conditions of slavery, while still looking out for the needs and the well-being of his fellow slaves.
Yes.
And he ends up dying protecting one of the slaves from being beaten.
Wow. That's heavy. We do have to go to break. We did not go to our second break. We were supposed to.
Let's do it then.
We got to get these ads off
get
before the top
paid.
of the hour.
That's right. Let's get the bills
so we can
paid.
continue to get paid. We'll be right back here on WLTH 1370 AM. Please give us a call, 219-885-1371. Again, 219-885-1371.